I think the most important word in this respect is tone, because I think there's situations where I've come out and made videos that are absolutely correct, but if you misjudge the tone, then you can needlessly piss off a fan base.
Right, 100%.
So a good example of that is the Aston Villa video I did after Unai Emery arrives, and they, in the time since he arrives, they're basically second in the table on the points table for the Premier League. And I made a video which was like, Aston Villa aren't as good as you think, because a lot of people think, well, they're second in the table on the points table since he's arrived, therefore they must be the second best team in the Premier League in that time period. And my point was simply, this is probably not representative of the level that Villa are at, but I used the word lucky. And whilst I believe that you can use the word lucky in that way, I think a lot of fans get wound up if you say that something is lucky. So what I meant by that was that there's certain games where, just things variance the right way for them. In fact, most of their games, they got the better better series of outcomes.
Yeah, the odd refereeing decision, the bounce of the ball on the day, man. It could be anything.
And that's the point I was making. But again, there's a lot of people who interpret that as you're saying that actually we're not good, we just got lucky, which is, again, it's not what I was saying, and I would stand by everything I said in that video.
Those two statements don't have to be mutually exclusive.
But I think that the thing that I learned from that video is that you do have to think about tone as well. And that was something that I hadn't thought about that much when I was making the video, because I guess I'm used to operating in a sphere where I'm often talking to people who are working in the industry, and so you use shorthand terms like luck or variance to explain roughly what's going on. And if you do that to a public audience, you have to be aware of the ramifications of what that might be. So yeah, it's funny because I think a lot of people, when you work in the media and you get a lot of people responding to what you do, and obviously you're in the public eye, you do get a lot of people pushing back on it. So there's weird things like the fact that Man United fans think that all my analysis is bad because I'm a Leeds fan, and that they're entitled to think that. I like to think that there is some value in my analysis despite that fact, but that's sort of how it comes out in the wash. I think what's very easy to do when you're in that situation where, there's a number of different fan bases who I've pissed off at various times. And it's funny, actually, if you go through some of the social media comments, I've been accused of being a fan of pretty much every club in the Premier League because they're convinced that I'm so biased against them, I must be a fan of their rival. Maybe that means I'm doing a good job. I don't know. But I think it's very easy to sort of set up a siege mentality and be like, oh, this is what the public do, the great unwashed public do. But what I try and do in all of these situations is reassess. And maybe this is the result of 10 years spent in academia. 10 years spent in academia thinking about, my PhD was on philosophies of subjectivity, right, which is to do with how you perceive the world. And I think when you read modern philosophy that much, you become very sanguine about the possibility that I could be wrong about something. That when you read that amount of philosophical treatises on actually how many things can go wrong when you're walking down the street and trying to perceive what's going on around you, then very quickly you become aware of the fact that being wrong is something that is a possibility. So I think that's something I've tried to take on board, and the experience of being in academia is very much to be, that what we say is always up for debate. There's always the possibility that someone else's take is better. And that's something I've tried to take with me at TIFO as well. I always try and learn from situations. I always try and reassess and think, right, have I, it's easy for me to be like, oh, this is just fans who hate me because I've said something negative about their club. I always try and treat those situations actually, rather than sort of becoming insular by being like, okay, let me rethink through what I've done there. And I think that's an incredibly useful skill and tool to have. I think it's incredibly hard to do because my gut response in these situations is always fuck them, and there's an extent to which you need to do that because you need to be able to function, right? You need to be able to function, and one of the ways that you do that is just by having that kind of trigger that allows you to keep going forwards.
Just being able to dismiss an argument out of hand that you're like, listen, man, we've only got so many years on this planet. I can't engage with you on this one. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah, and look, my colleagues always tell me that. So one of the things that one of the sort of watchwords that we have is like, don't read the comments, right? And there's value in that. And I very often don't read the comments, particularly on videos where I know that the comments will be particularly brutal. But at the same time, I think that it's, even if I may err too far on that side of, taking things to heart too much, but I think that that's been a really fundamental aspect to why I've improved so quickly as an analyst. I think I don't think I'm anywhere near the finished product when it comes to analysis, but I think the ability to be able to, suck it up and say, okay, I was maybe wrong on this, that maybe I missed something here, is an incredibly important aspect of how to improve. And actually, that level of curiosity and willingness to accept that, the thing that I am analyzing out there is way bigger than my perceptive faculties is actually a really important way of being able to take it seriously and make sure that you're never just crystallizing your ideas and falling back on old things. That there's always the possibility that, those things can change. Maybe I've missed something, and I think that's, for me, that's the most important, I think, watchword for me as an analyst, is to never feel as though, I've fully analyzed everything. I can think that I've understood a game. I can read something on Twitter where someone does a different analysis of the game and be like, do you know what? I think that they've actually hit on a better way of assessing that game as well. So I can't even remember where we were, but that was a bit of a ramble by me. But I just don't want to come across as though I feel as though I've got the answers to everything and that I understand everything. For me, a big part of my job is being in the process of being able to just consume myself in football and learn things from it. And I think, that doesn't mean to say that I feel as though I arrived. Sometimes it can seem to people from the outside that when you're a member of the media and you're sort of putting out these videos, you're sort of saying this is how it is. So that's the thing that I most want to avoid, falling into that habit of being like, well, I'm paid to do this, so therefore my view is worth more, because I don't think that's true.